Well, the UK government decided to take sanctions against Roman Abramovich, and of course that involved Chelsea Football Club. They have issued a general license to Chelsea Football Club that will enable them to continue playing and functioning up to a certain level, but they will be very constrained by the terms of that license. Well, they'll be impacted in a lot of different ways. Indeed, they are trying to vary the terms of the license, because one of the biggest problems is they're only allowed £20,000 of expenses for away matches, and that really is not sufficient when they've got Champions League away matches coming up. But in particular, they won't be allowed to conduct transfers, and they won't be able to conduct contract negotiations with players that are going out of contract. Also, of course, the club shop has had to close, and they will not be allowed to sell matchday tickets beyond those that have been issued already. Well, I think the important thing here is whether they're able to negotiate a sale. The government has indicated they might allow a sale to go ahead, provided that none of the funds that arise from the sale go to the benefit of Roman Abramovich. So it's quite possible you have, at least 10 and possibly more credible buyers interested in the club. It's possible the sale will go ahead, in which case, if that can happen reasonably quickly, the impact would be much less than it would be otherwise. Well, I think there's always been an element of a fire sale here, and it was talked of that he wanted something like £3 billion, and I never really thought that was going to be possible. I mean, one of the big complications actually is not to do with all this, it's to do with the Stamford Bridge ground and the fact that really that's got to be redeveloped if Chelsea are going to keep up with the other top 6 clubs, and that's a very complicated development, a very expensive development. So that is one of the things that has to be factored in. But I mean, most of the buyers that are interested are American buyers. We're not really getting buyers from the Gulf or China anymore at the moment. So I think some of those buyers would have the funds that would be needed to revitalise the club. Well, there are often people who already own sport franchises in the United States. And the problem is it's very difficult to buy new franchises in the States, because unless you go for an expansion franchise, and there are all sorts of problems associated with that. So in many ways, if you've got surplus funds, and of course the dollar-pound exchange rate is quite favourable, it's quite a good idea to come to the UK and try and acquire a very attractive club like Chelsea, in which you can invest and develop and hopefully make a capital return eventually. Well, that is a risk. I think there are at least 3 key players who are coming out of contract with whom normally they would want to have contract negotiations. And of course, they're not allowed to make any transfers, to transfer anyone in if these arrangements continue. So if these things go on beyond the end of the season, then I think the implications are very serious. The hope for Chelsea fans must be that, it will be possible to reach an agreement on a sale approved by the government before the end of the season. Otherwise, I think it becomes much more serious. Well, yes, of course, those things are closely interrelated. I mean, if in fact they weren't able to secure a sale and they continue to operate under these very restrictive license conditions, then their chances of success on the pitch next season would be considerably reduced. And then, of course, that inevitably has an effect on their income. I mean, there are already talks going on between them and their shirt sponsors about what's going to happen. The commercial income is very important to a club like Chelsea.